Mabuhay! My name is AIDS.
Hola, I'm Chow.
Sawadika, this is Trix.
Annyeong, this is Jigs.
Konnichiwa, my name is Yuki, and welcome to
The Rainbow Perspective.
So just as a disclaimer to everyone, we're not complete. We're missing out on Chow and Jigs. Hi to both of you, we miss you. And hopefully on the next episodes, they will be joining. But the Rainbow Perspective comprises of us five. Best friends for X years already. And this is just a fun way for us to bond and talk about things, anything under the sun, on our perspective. So, since yesterday or today, we're celebrating the National Day against discrimination against LGBTQIA+. What a fitting first topic would be, which is coming out. Coming out. Yeah. The stigma of coming out, right? So, para sa inyo guys, ano ba, or anong perspective nyo when you say coming out?
For me, coming out, it's more of a breaking point for an individual wherein dito na siya magde-decide to come out to free himself from the burden of, hiding.
Yeah,
So basically, that's it for me.
that's good.
Chicks?
Yep. So guys, if Yuki is actually calling it a breaking point, I would like to call it naman a starting point for an
Nice.
individual.
Yeah.
Because I think that prior to coming out, the previous years maybe and months that you've spent in your life isn't or aren't that true enough versus the after coming out phase, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so that's coming out for me.
How about you, Abe?
Ako, para sa akin, I don't know, I see it as a formality, I guess. Because I think growing up, syempre, we have the stigma na, no, not really stigma, but syempre, sa culture ng Pilipinas na being gay, for example, is something that's out of the norm, diba? So, the way that I say it, parang it's a formality. I know a few, or a handful that na parang when they came out, parang yun yung formality nila in terms of, even though alam na ng mga tao na ganun yung sexual orientation nila or gender preference nila, at least it's coming from them. Parang, oh, ito ako, ganyan, diba? This is me, diba? Formality-wise. So parang coming out for me is not just a formality process, it's also a transformative process. Para siyang emancipation. Gets mo? Gets. Yun. So, I think it's very fitting right now. So guys, kayo ba tingin nyo na do you think that it's harder to come out now versus, let's say, 5 to 7 years ago? What do you think?
I would say mas madali. Well, this is just my opinion. Mas madali nowadays. Kasi there are plenty of people who's supporting us, who's supporting those people after they've seen the aftermath of, the bad act of condemning these people na nag-result into sometimes suicide, psychological effects. It is easier nowadays versus yung, oh my God, so ang tanda ko na.
It's okay.
So, versus dati na some might take you sa church para ipag-pray over ka pa, di ba?
Totoo. Yeah.
Yeah, those cases. Yeah. Chicks?
Ikaw, Chicks.
I agree with Yuki. I feel like this is easier now only because some famous people are actually involved na. So, if you're gonna think of it, some of our celebrities in beauty pageants, in the music industry, a lot of people are getting involved, even in politics, diba? We have a lot of people now who are getting involved in these topics. So I agree with you guys that I feel like this is easier, way easier now compared to a few years back.
Totoo.
Well, of course, depende pa din naman yun sa tao na magka-come out, di ba? Kung
And the
magiging
people
madali,
around them.
exactly, kung magiging madali sa kanila, or maybe for some, madali for them, pero hindi madali para sa mga tao sa paligid.
That's true.
Right.
I agree. I think different now. If let's say I would compare before, ganyan.
Mhm.
Pero I think we're still far, kasi I think we have a notion of what we feel is equality. Siyempre, madami mga aspects like socio-economic acceptance, ganyan. The right to marriage, for example, ganyan. But of course, siyempre, I think, I'm not sure, pero personally, I think we're still far from that. But sobrang welcome naman na kahit paano umusad na tayo. Gets mo?
Yes, that's true. That's
Yeah.
big improvement. Specifically
Oo.
sa atin, Philippines, na
Mhm.
napakalaking population ng mga Katoliko din dito, di ba? So
Right.
now it is easier in seeing people, nabanggit nga ni celebrities, icons, they're showing their support, not just
Mhm.
dun sa mga statements nila, minsan sa music, minsan in the form of art.
Yeah.
Diba?
And guys, just to add, I was about to mention earlier na yung point ni Yuki about the big Catholic population in our country.
Yeah.
That actually plays a big factor in terms of coming out, because since yun nga minention natin na there's a big population of Catholic people in the Philippines. It's hard for some people to accept people who are coming out. And in regards dun sa sinabi ni AIDS kanina na meron na tayong konting progress kahit papaano, 'di ba? So we're really happy that there's a progress. Small progress is still a progress, so we
Yeah.
should appreciate that.
Yeah, that's true. But that's good. I think at the end of the day naman, diba, na parang at least we're celebrated, even if in a small way or a big way, diba? We're celebrated, or at least we're seen, diba? I think that's the most important thing, diba?
Yes.
So I am very happy and grateful that we're seeing a lot of people who are feeling that we are relevant na. I
Yeah.
guess that's the term. Kasi ang dami ng members na naging parte ng politics nga, ng music, and a lot of them are celebrities now and very successful. That's why we are being
Yeah.
acknowledged na kahit papaano.
Yeah. But I think in terms of, I think sobrang laking topic ng LGBTQ kasi under that there's a lot of subtopics na we can discuss, but it will take us I don't know, maybe a year. Diba? But focusing back, let's say, on coming out, a lot of people would say that coming out, I think the prerequisite is, do you know your identity? Do you know your sexual orientation? And do you know your sexual preference or gender preference rather? So sa tingin nyo guys, how does one define, or ano yung process ng isang tao to understand yung sexual orientation nila or yung gender preference nila?
Okay. So these two things are actually super different, 'di ba? So yung sexual orientation at saka yung gender identity ng isang tao. And to answer your question, AIDS, kung parang paano yung process of identification, ikaw lang yun eh. Only yourself could actually define these two things. And just for clarity for our future listeners, I would like to tell you guys that these two things are again super different. So sexual orientation is yung parang kanino ka sexually attracted. That's your
correct,
sexual orientation. Whereas the gender identity is how do you identify your gender as a person. So again, going back, it's you alone who can identify that, and no one can actually dictate what your gender is.
That's
true.
Yeah. Maybe just for everyone, I think disclaimer then, this is our own definition also of the two terms. We don't mean to, really
Offend
if there's a
or-
political exactly,
Right.
yeah. There's really not we're not defining it politically. If there is such a political definition of it. Pero tama si Chicks. Do you agree, Yuki?
Yes, definitely I agree. Pero a little help lang, no? So when chicks discuss the difference between sexual orientation, gender preference, and stating that it's different, can you cite an example?
So, example guys, someone who's straight, 'di ba? So straight is parang one of the
Hetero.
gender identifications that one could have. So example, meron kasing 'di bang negative notion ang mga tao or ang mga Pilipino or tao nga in general na they would say if someone is actually gay or lesbian, tapos there's someone who's straight who falls in love doon sa taong yun,
Yeah.
that person automatically becomes lesbian na rin or gay. That's not true. So that's one of the negative, or sorry, hindi negative, pero one of the things na mali ang interpretation ng mga tao. Kasi, say for example, dalawang straight, 'di ba? A boy and a girl. If you're a girl, kasi nga straight ka, and you fall in love with a boy, naging lalaki ka ba? Hindi naman, 'di ba? So, sobrang simple lang ng analogy niya. Hindi siya ganon, and we want...
Hindi siya parang rocket science.
Oo,
na
di ba?
parang
Hindi siya ganon, guys. So, parang we want to enlighten lang people na it doesn't work that way. So, going back to my point earlier, ikaw lang ang makakapag-identify nun sa sarili mo regardless who you're sexually attracted to. Your gender is or could be defined by you alone.
Okay.
Very
To be
informative.
honest, yeah, very informative. So, ako, to be honest, I'm still confused. So, ako, for example, let's use myself as an example. Ako, I'm sexually attracted to men. So, that's my sexual orientation. Tama, diba? And when you say gender preference, so I still identify as a male. Tama ba?
How do you identify by yourself? Like, do you identify yourself
Yeah,
as
gay. Sorry,
bisexual?
I'm gay.
Or...
Okay, yeah, gay.
Ganun siya.
Yeah,
I guess it's,
okay, got it.
so guys, diba, yun, for our listeners, you could tell that even members are parang hindi naman confused, pero we don't have the 100% knowledge, I guess, of it, only because this is very diverse. Ang dami kasi talaga. So, hindi lahat merong knowledge about this. So, it's better if people could actually educate themselves by reading, by watching yung mga videos on YouTube, maybe, mga vlogs, ganyan, or blogs. Yun.
Or as simple as di ba? Parang if you have a friend na who is part of the LGBT community, di ba? Doesn't hurt to know them, have a conversation with them, understand them. Kasi again, going back to homophobia, ang daming mga, I think there's still a stigma na parang isa lang yung category ng mga yan, bading lang yan or tibo lang yan or ganyan,
right.
But there's a complexity to it Pero siguro my question, Bix, I think I'm gonna ask this to Yuki. Ikaw, Yuki, do you think that itong dalawang to, gender preference, sexual orientation and gender preference, do you think that they are prerequisites for you to come out?
I would say yes. Well, basing do sa yung stock knowledge ko back then, ako lalaki lang ako. All of a sudden, nagsimula akong ma-attract sa kapwa lalaki. And then, automatic gay ako. But then, along the process, I realized I am still sexually and romantically attracted din sa girl. So, I'm gay, or probably I'm a bisexual, and mas mataas ang alam mo yung pagka-attract ko din sa at the moment mas attracted ako sa guy. So
hi, Chow.
Sabihin ko pa sana, obviously.
Obviously.
Tao, charot. Hindi. I would say it is a prerequisite, and malaking factor din yung experiences, yung mga pinagdaanan sa buhay.
Totoo.
Plus yung exposure mo sa society. I was exposed to, I would say, church activities and all, but majority ng kasama ko medyo malalamya din. Hindi ko alam, studios lang and all, but it turned out pare-pareho kami naging ganito.
Yeah.
Alam mo yun, malaking takto yung mga ganong bagay.
Yeah. Go, chicks.
I feel like yes, it is a prerequisite kasi parang again ako lang to, pero naiisip ko kasi na it's really hard to come out if hindi mo pa na-identify kung ano yung ika-come out mo. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Ayun lang.
Yeah.
Yun lang yung naiisip
Totoo.
ko. So parang feeling ko, you have to identify muna yourself prior to coming out. Kasi again, paano mo sasabihin na eto ko? Eh hindi mo nga alam ko ano ka. Yun lang.
Totoo. I think I agree with you. I think I also used the wrong term, prerequisite, but maybe a component of coming out, di ba?
Yep.
Pero I agree with you both na parang kaya ka magka-come out or magiging proud kasi at least you went through the process of really understanding kung ano yung kailangan mo, di ba? And I think there's always a purpose of why you're coming out. Hindi naman siya parang glorified content sa Instagram or YouTube to get followers or whatnot, but it's more of a, it's breaking out of your shell, diba? Na parang, diba? So yun.
It's also a process of, knowing yourself. Kasi it doesn't mean that come ka as gay, ever gay ka eh. Pwede rin naman along the way, kahit sabi mong gay ako, walang maging expressive, pero gusto ko rin magkaroon ng anak.
Totoo.
Right?
Yeah.
Or gusto ko rin talagang magkaroon ng pamilya along with a girl.
Right.
Pwede rin naman naging gay ako, naging transgender ako. Tapos, gusto kong bumalik sa pagkalalaki. So I decided to, be romantically involved into a relationship with another girl or maybe a lesbian, bakla pa din, di ba?
Yeah.
So, maraming pasikot-sikot. So again, coming out is just the first step.
Totoo.
And it will be a long journey for these individuals.
Correct.
Totoo. Yeah.
True.
So
Yun
guys,
siya.
in line with that, do you think that there is a good time? Or when do you think is a good time? Or when is it applicable for you to come out? Ganyan. Let's have that conversation. Ako kasi personally, I think, syempre it's about yourself, diba? Again, as what I've said kanina, hindi mo naman siya ginagawa para sa benefit ng iba, diba? You're coming out just because you want to support yourself, diba? You want to be known instead of people talking behind your back na ganyan siya, blah, blah, blah. But ako, I think, when I came out, siguro may mga components lang ako consider when I came out. I think first and foremost is siguro checking yung temperature or yung vibe ng family ko, diba? So, I went through a process of individually sa family ko. Just observing kung paano sila nag-react sa things na are related sa LGBT community, for example. Let's say, for example, watching like a plain Filipino movie. Nandun there's a prominent gay actor, ganyan. So I'm just observing how they're coming out. So that's the first component para sa akin. Second siguro is career. Since panganay din naman ako, diba? Ayoko din magkaroon ng bad notion na, alam mo yun, na parang, yun yung masama sa atin, there's a toxic culture na parang pagbating, walang kwenta, walang contribution sa society, ganyan. So, yeah, but I'm not saying na gano'n naman talaga yung culture, pero I felt na maging gano'n siya. So, ginawa ko siyang component na sana stable ako sa job ko, okay yung career ko, hindi ako gago, hindi ako sanggano, gets mo. So, parang yun.
Yes.
Tapos yun nga, third is your sexual identity and your gender preference. Although I may say rather na when I came out, I think I'm still not really confident with who I was. Pero yun, when na-tick ko na yung tatlong component na yun, or parang half-tick yung isang box, parang ganun, sabi ko sa sarili ko, it's time. So, yun, I think that's for me. Kayo ba?
For me, the best time, actually, wala eh. For me, mararamdaman mo na lang siya.
Mhm.
I agree with you na you have to factor a couple of things like naging mabuti ba akong mamamayan, naging mabuti ba akong anak,
Yeah.
right? Naging mabuti ba akong kapatid and all.
Mhm.
But sometimes these factors, kapag masyado nang naipon,
Yeah.
medyo hindi kasi healthy.
Mhm.
So maybe that's one thing that I want to point out to those people who are planning to come out. If you have to weigh things na if you feel like natotoxican ka na or let's say peer, kasi there's a big difference if nagpipigil ka.
Yeah.
And you are planning to come out but then there are things that's stopping you.
Mhm.
Kumpara dun sa peer pressure na mag-come out ka na, di ba?
Yeah.
Those are two different things.
Totoo.
Again, it is you who's going to come out.
Mhm.
Hindi sarili mo nga alagaan mo eh. So, I guess the best time for you to come out is kapag naramdaman mong ready ka na.
Totoo.
I mean, you are brave enough to take those challenges.
Mhm.
Kasi kailangan mo rin naman kahit paano ma-foresee eh. So,
Yeah.
again, factoring a lot of things.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, it is you who will decide when are you going to take that big jump para sa bagong chapter ng buhay mo.
Yeah. Totoo. Totoo yun.
Next.
Yeah.
Ako na,
Oo nga, chicks, ikaw.
well, ako kasi guys, I didn't have the, I guess, luxury of parang deciding on my own on when to come out kasi someone did it for me, which was very unfortunate. I guess
Yeah.
you guys, my friends, know naman my story, but I'm not gonna tell it na. Pero ayun nga, someone did it for me. So that's very unfortunate because I was saying earlier at the start of our podcast na it's only you alone who can do that for yourself. But
Exactly.
to answer the question on when is the best time, parehas kayo actually my points. So si AIDS minention niya kanina na there are a lot of things to be considered. So one of which ako personally, I feel like that's the biggest factor is really your family.
Totoo.
Just you also have to respect them eh. Hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na ikaw yan, sarili mo yan. So you get to decide for yourself, blah blah blah. At the end of the day, family is everything. So you also have to respect their insights. You have to respect their opinions. So and going back to family, I always believe na your mother would know. 100%
Totoo.
yun.
Amen ako dyan.
Siya ang nagluwal sa'yo. She would know.
Sorry.
Totoo.
Akala ko sabihin mo your mother is not a pig.
Punyeta. Punyeta naman.
Breeder ba to?
Joke.
Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay, going back.
No holds barred.
Uubo lang
Ito
ako.
naman ang purpose
Uubo
ng
lang ako.
podcast eh. Diba?
So yun. I was saying na going back dun sa family parang factor na you have to consider. Your mother would know 100%.
True.
Literal na andun ka sa kanya for 9 months. So that person would really know. And then
Yeah.
sinabi ni Yuki kanina na you determine or you identify yung best time once you are ready. I guess that sums up everything. Ikaw lang talaga makakapag-decide dun eh. Pag na-feel mo sa sarili mo na this is it, I'm ready, do it.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. That's true. Well, alam nyo, yun yung sinasabi ko, diba? Na parang, for those who are listening and who are getting insights sa amin, so this is just our point of view based on how we did it, diba? But I think one common thing that you both said, and siguro including na rin yung sinabi ko, is that it's a process that you need to decide, diba? For yourself, and hindi siya, yun nga, tama. Societal pressure should not force you to do it because that's a different thing, right? Even if a lot of people would rat us out or sila yung magbubuking sa atin, ganyan. It's still not your story. Diba? Parang
Right, it's not your story.
hindi sila, yeah. Exactly. Pero totoo. And yeah, mothers know best. Hi mom, if nakikinig ka dito. Love you.
Hey, mom.
Hey, mom. Ganyan. Ayun. Very good insights, I think. But siguro my question before we move on to the next topic. Do you think that it's required? Do you think that people are required to come out? Because I know a few who haven't really come out, who haven't really came out yet. Sorry, English is dying. But do you think that it's a requirement, or do you think that it's a thing that you need to do, or do you think that you can just forgo it and then live normally with your life? How about you, chicks?
Actually, that question is very interesting. Wow. Pero kasi iniisip ko, I guess required is not the right term. I'm looking for a term sa isip ko, pero I don't feel like it's a requirement for an individual. Kasi again, meron kasi tayong kanya-kanyang meron tayong kanya-kanyang pace sa buhay, 'di ba? So, it's not really a requirement kasi you can just live your life naman normally without the need of broadcasting it to the people around you. 'Di ba? So parang again, sinabi natin kanina na parang ikaw yan, that's yourself. There's no need for you to broadcast it to people around you. So if you don't feel like coming out, don't do it. If you feel like you need to come out, go. Pero kung nasi-feel mo na hindi mo kailangan gawin yun, then people will respect that and hindi kanila dapat pilitin, I guess. That's my take.
True.
It's very good. Yeah. How about you, Yuki?
It's the same thing. It's not a requirement. I would say, again, you're the captain of your own ship.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be pressured by the society na mag-come out kasi it's very obvious na malambot ka or anything.
Yeah, totoo.
It is up to you how you are going to manage it. But just a tip for those people who decided not to come out, always find support.
Yeah.
Find support dun sa mga taong alam nyo mapagkakatiwalaan ninyo.
Totoo.
Alam ninyong masusuportahan kayo regardless kung aware sila or kung hindi. Yung simpleng constant communication, alam mo yung pakikipag-usap, that can somehow help. If let's say you decided not to come out, and for those people who decided to come out, then welcome to the club. Everyone is loved.
Totoo.
Okay, you guys are loved.
Totoo. And I agree with you both. I think that's why we're best friends. Hindi naman siya requirement talaga. And yeah, there's another term for it, not requirement. So, for those na nakikinig, please be nice sa amin. So,
again, pilot episode.
Exactly. And sabi ni Boy Abunda, the views and opinions
of the host do not reflect.
Exactly. True. But siguro, for me, yes, it's not a requirement, but if you're wanting to do it, maybe you can do it in phases. Yuki said na you can rely on your inner circle muna, diba? Parang kung sino talaga yung you trust. That could be your family, your friend, diba? But yeah, don't force yourself. I think that's the biggest thing about coming out. Do not force yourself. It's not a requirement. You do you. You're the captain of your own ship, diba? Na parang, diba? Yun lang. But for those who are coming out, do you think that there are any tips or do's and don'ts when you're coming out? Anyone?
Me.
Okay, go.
I would say be careful before you come out. So this is under do's. Be careful before you come out. Magsabi ka lang dun sa taong sobrang pinagkakatiwalaan mo muna.
Yes.
First would be family. If you're not comfortable, find someone, let's say your closest friend, or basta someone in your community or maybe at work na sobrang pinagkakatiwalaan mo na kahit pwede mo ipagkatiwala ang buhay mo. True. But not to someone who is paano ba yun? Parang may pagka-broadcaster na ano ka, ibubuto ka sa buong mundo, ilalantas ka.
Yeah.
That's one. So you have to be very careful. You have to be very selective dun sa mga taong pagsasabihan mo. Kasi before you face that big jump, before you do that, to make sure that you have that support.
Totoo.
Diba? Kasi malaking factor yun eh. Medyo, for some kasi para silang, alam mo, parang dinudurog.
Yeah.
After they came out and they just, wala silang enough support, sometimes they decided to do stupid things like ending their life.
Yeah.
Diyos ko, wag naman.
Totoo.
Right?
Totoo. And
So,
please, and for those who are planning to come out, and for those who came out and hindi maganda yung naging experience nyo, please take care of your life, diba? A lot of people out there loves you. Don't let one incident define what your life is now and where it could be. Parang ganun. Ikaw, Chicks, any tips and
Ako
do's and
sigurong
don'ts?
naiisip ko lang, do not rush. Yun, kasi going back dun sa sinabi ko kanina, you have your own pace. Hindi mo kailangang madaliin na parang, ayun sinabi niyo kanina, di ba, na peer pressure kapag nabili mo na, okay, sinasabi ng mga barkada mo na, ganyan ka na, magganyan ka na. It's gonna add pressure sa'yo. So, okay lang siguro na i-take mo into considerations yung some of the things that your friends or the people around you are telling you, pero not up to a certain extent only. Hindi pwedeng parang yun na yung biggest factor kung bakit ka magka-come out. So, again, do not rush. Take your time. If you don't feel like you're comfortable na kunyari next month or ganyan, wag. And siguro yun, this is kinda related din sa do not rush. Mag-set ka siguro ng timeline para hindi mo na-feel na dapat pag narinig ko lang to sa kaibigan ko or pag narinig ko lang to sa close na kung sino mang tao sa buhay ko, gagawin ko na to. So siguro mag-set ka ng timeline. So kunyari ang
manager na manager.
Naiisip ko na kunyari parang sabihin mo sa sarili mo na I'm seeing na in 2 years I'll be able to do it. So do it siguro na may progress, hindi pwedeng isang bulto na okay, hello world, ganyan. Hindi pwedeng ganun.
That's
so
true.
Just do not rush and take your time.
Totoo. And that's a very good one. Do not rush. And of course, yun nga din, to Yuki's point, make sure that you have a network nga. I think network is very important, especially sa community natin. Siguro for me, very simple lang. If you're really on that day na you would really come out, from a facilitation perspective, know your audience. That's number one. Like, know your audience, and what else? May talking points ka na, ganyan. Maybe 5 whys, ganyan, or who, what, where, how, when, and why. Yan, joke lang.
Yeah.
And yun lang. And be open to questions, I think. It's not about your show too. It's also about ano ba to? Taking note of what their emotion is when upon reacting to it. Gets mo? And have a discussion with them. Don't leave if they have questions sa'yo, for example, since kailan pa, ano ba to? Kailan mo na-realize, ganyan. Be open about it kasi yun na yung earmark mo ng pag-start ng pag-open up mo sa buhay mo eh. So parang, diba, na parang, yun lang. Pero of course, I'm not saying that you should blurt everything out, but there are things that would still remain private, diba? From your personal
and siguro,
preference.
sorry, Yuki.
Go, Chicks. I guess, wag ka din maybe do not expect good reaction from your audience. Just prepare yourself as well. Yung sabi nga ni AIDS kanina, be ready to your questions, and it's not an instant thing eh. Parang hindi lang to nagtitimpla ka ng 3-in-1 na bola, may kape ka na agad. No.
Yeah. Sponsorship plug. Joke lang.
Ay, sorry.
Sponsored ba to?
Maybe,
Wala pa. Joke lang.
Hello, Alfonso Light. Charot. So I guess, pag nag-come out ka, it's a baby step.
True.
Hindi kasi siya pag nag-come out ka automatically accepted ka.
Yeah.
So you have to consider give time for your audience to process kung ano yung na-receive nilang balita kasi that may take time. For some it may take a couple of days. For some it takes years.
Yeah, totoo.
Okay. So ganun lang.
Ayun lang siguro
Chicks?
i-add ko lang doon sa minention nyo kanina na regarding sa pagiging ready or pag-anticipate ng mga questions or reactions na ibabato sa iyo ng mga tao. That's really one thing to be taken into consideration kasi especially your family, kilala mo sila Parang of all people, ikaw yung nakakakilala at alam mo kung paano sila mag-react dun sa sasabihin mo. So, dahil nga kilala mo sila, you should also, I guess, jot down maybe kung paano yung mga magiging reaction nila at paano ka naman mag-respond doon sa magiging reaction.
So,
yun lang.
Yeah. Those are very valid points, diba? But, yun nga din. And, I think it's a good thing that we're sharing on what worked for those who came out talaga, who had the luxury of, running the show by themselves. But again, it's all about you guys. If you feel na you have an approach or a tactic on how to do it, it's up to you, right? But siguro, one thing that's common sa sinabi namin tatlo is that it's about you pa rin. It's your process, but take care of yourself too. Maglagay ka na insurance sa sarili mo din, diba? If things go unplanned or things go not as planned rather, diba? So yun. But kunyeta, I mean, ako personally, when I came out, wala, iba yung feeling na parang nabulutan na
Right,
tinik.
that's the term.
Siguro, if I would, parang ang laki, parang I could breathe properly, diba? But at least I know na yun, parang I feel na nag-expand lang yung network ko, yung support network ko, which is really good, diba? And I know na kahit paano na at least no matter where my life goes, diba? At least I could say na it's a huge achievement for me. And I think that's one of the biggest realizations that I've had since coming out. Na parang tangina ang swerte ko. Ang swerte ko sa family ko, sa friends ko. Not saying that it's perfect, diba? But there are days na talagang will challenge you, but it's diba? I could not imagine it any other way. And siguro yung tamang term. It's a big something. Ganun. Kayo ba? What's your realization when you're now more confident sa sarili mo?
Realization? Ako, more of, I thought back then, it was, yun na-mention ko nga kanina, akala ko instant lang. Once na sinabi mong, yes ma, I'm gay. Period.
Yeah.
Okay na. No, it's not. It was a process.
Yeah.
So, hindi siya pang mabilisan na may resulta kagad.
Yeah.
So, may mga reaction and matagal yung how should I say this? Process of acceptance ng mga taong pinagsabihan mo. And some may react badly, but then that's part of the process. We have to accept it. That's my realization, and that made me stronger. And I'm very lucky to have my family, you guys. Hindi naman kasi at some point hindi ganun kadali makahanap ng solid na friends solid na mga tao mapagkakatiwalaan.
That's true.
And I'm very lucky to have you guys.
Aww.
Heart.
Shameless plug. Heart. Aww.
Siguro ang iisip ko lang na realization is you would know who are the ones who truly love you. At kung sino yung mga talagang totoo sa'yo. Kasi parang napansin ko before, prior coming out, there were people na parang who would love you as the person that they want you to be versus yung kung ano ka talaga. So, pagkatapos ng malaking decision mo na yon, you would know kung sino talaga yung parang okay, that's okay, we accept you, that's fine, And then sino naman yung mga ibang tao na parang mamatahin ka? Sino yung mga ibang tao na sobra ang mga negative reactions sa'yo? So from there, at least malalaman mo na kung sino talaga ang mga taong totoo. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. So dun ka lang sa mga tao. So I guess share ko to sa Facebook ng isang araw na parang choose the people who choose you. Yun.
Like that.
Nice.
Sabi nga ni Ash Ketchum, I choose you. Joke lang, Pokemon. Yeah, pero that's true, diba? Yun nga din. So parang in the journey of self-discovery, which is you, right? You also discover who are the people who are willing to stay, diba? So yun din. I agree with that. And yes, it comes in phases, it comes in different levels. Parang so sa Dante's Inferno, ang daming levels ng hell. But it's not hell, it's heaven. So parang yun nga din. Stick to it for those who are starting the progress or the process now. If you're still in step 1, there's still a lot to go through, but I know that you can do it. But it's always the first step that's the hardest, sabi nila.
First cut is
diba?
the deepest.
Exactly, di ba?
Yes.
And pansin ko kayo Tatay Obonobo. So, Lola Remedios, baka naman. Joke lang. So, yeah. Yun lang. So, what do you think? Just to summarize our conversation tonight, any message out there for someone who's wanting to come out or who doesn't want to come out, or in general, what are your messages for them?
Siguro ang iniisip ko lang is we are already a big family in a big community. So if you feel like after coming out, you will be disregarded in the society or whatever, that's not gonna happen, because a lot of people will support you. A lot of people will love you for who you really are. So just really be yourself and make sure na kinakausap mo yung mga tamang tao and you are talking to the ones again who really matter. That's my final words. Final words.
Yes.
Final words. Lakas mo kami sa universe,
Plataforma. Joke lang. Ikaw, Yuki. That's yours.
Ako naman, message ko naman for those people, for everyone, to those who are listening. Don't rush. Huwag kayong magpadala sa peer pressure. You will find that courage to come out. But then again, huwag niyong madaliin. Planuhin ninyo. And don't go astray dun sa gray area. Isipin nyo, may mga taong nagmamahal sa inyo. Hindi lang pamilya ninyo.
Amen.
Hindi, may mga kaibigan din kayo.
Yeah.
Isipin nyo mabuti, bakit kayo nabubuhay sa mundong ito. Yeah. Plus, maraming unexpected things na pwedeng mangyari sa inyo.
Yeah.
And hindi nyo pa na-uncover yun. Yeah. And lastly, in doing this first step, always pray.
Yeah.
Yun lang.
Italy,
Japan,
trust and love you. Joke lang. Japan, always pray at night. Oh. Kidding aside. I think that's very, you sa inyong dalawa, very different point of views, but equally important. Siguro sa akin lang is that for those who are struggling, for those who feel na this is not the right path that you are taking, for those who are confused, don't be too hard on yourself. Don't do anything that's bad. It's okay to follow what your heart and your mind is telling you. It's okay. Fear will always be constant, I think, but the ability to overcome that fear and following really what your heart and your mind is telling you, I think that's the most important thing. So just remember that there's a lot of people there who's willing to accept you, who is ready to accept you for who you are and no matter what you are. So yun lang. I think that's the most important thing for me. Yeah.
Yay! Thank you, contestant number 3.
Yes. Yes. Miss Trinidad and Tobago, ganyan. Ang ganun. Ay, nako. Well, that was fun. It was a very fun session. What do you guys think?
I would say, puro napaka-daming insights. So, I'm kind of surprised and learned a lot of things. Especially dun sa difference between gender preference and sexual orientation.
Too. Thank you,
You're welcome,
Chicks.
guys. Yuck.
Thank you, chicks.
Yeah. Yun. And I think that wraps it up for us. Say your goodbyes, guys, I think.
Adios.
Yay. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
guys.
guys. And I
Adios.
guess we'll be talking again on our next episode.
Hopefully, kompleto
Yeah.
We'll
na.
make sure.
Yes.
And if you have
That's
any suggestions of our next topic, just reach out to us. Diba?
Comment below.
Comment. And by the way, guys, please mag-comment kasi.
Yeah.
Comment below if any suggestions.
Yeah.
Thing. Plus, see you at the other end of the
Thank
rainbow.
you.
Oy, gusto ko yan. Like it. And thank you, guys. And please follow us please follow our podcast on Spotify and share the great news and love to everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.